Our next business meeting will be Thursday, March 7th. It's upstairs in C104. Anybody's welcome. Love to have the support. We just kind of talk about what's going on, what's on the calendar, what's the upcoming events that we have for Methodist men, things that we can support, ministries. We're in talks about starting our own scholarship. We mentioned this earlier. Some funds that we're going to do. We're going to help establish and give a scholarship to the youth. That's going to help out. And then we talk about our biggest fundraiser, our golf tournament, and exciting things going on. So look forward to anybody considering wanting to join. I talked about Pardon of Christ, so here's the slide that John, so again, this is just a reminder. If anybody's interested, would love to have you guys to go support this great breakfast and this program on March 9th, so put that on your calendar. April, we're excited to announce that Michael Walden, PhD, NC State, the economic consulting, he's going to be our guest speaker in April, so we're looking forward to that program. Going back, I do want to mark the calendar on in May. We are going to have a program in May. It's going to be focused on mothers, so it's going to be a nice program, but we will have a program in May, but that's more to be determined. And I think that's it. So at this time, whoops, I'm going backwards, sorry. At this time, if I could ask Miss Martha would be willing to come up and share a little devotion, we appreciate that. Thank you.
The Lord be with you. I am truly excited to hear from Gant and Scouting Ministries this morning. Scouting Ministries have shaped the life of our family for the better, especially for my husband Ken and our son John. Scouting taught us many lessons, created wonderful times of fellowship and teamwork. It helped with character building and perseverance and all sorts of things. And when our son John was in process of becoming an Eagle, I made the mistake of saying to the troop leaders, well, Ken was an Eagle. Well, our troop leader quickly replied, no, Ken is an Eagle. And so, quick story, upon John's first return from his big camping trip, he unloaded the gear in the driveway so he could sort it all out before putting it away. After a few minutes, I realized that John had not made it back into the house for a much-needed shower. So I went back outside to see what was going on, and there was John in the driveway in the broiling sun with his head on his sleeping bag, fast asleep, with all the gear still spread out around him. But you'll be glad to know by the second big camping trip, he made it all the way to the back porch before falling asleep on his gear. So as we enter a more intentional time of devotion today, it seemed to be good to share some of the work that one of our ministry teams is engaging. The Strategic Visioning Ministry team that supports the Church Council is doing a lot of work that I think is very highly pertinent, not only to us as a church body, but also to us in our own personal journey of discipleship. And this fall, the Strategic Visioning Ministry team has been digging deeper into who we are as a church body, why we exist as the church. We have really been looking at some foundational work to us as the body, because this always guides our work together. In this work, we've been giving thanks for a number of things, because there's some wonderful things taking place here. There are many reasons and calls for celebration. We also did some truthful naming, naming some challenges and gaps that we see in ministry, even naming how we stray from being the people God calls us to be as we miss the mark sometimes. We also, as we are looking toward our future, we are discerning some priorities and some strategic opportunities, asking what does a fruitful future look like. As you might imagine, we have a very robust list in process. One question that we are asking that I'm going to kind of lift off for today and highlight for our time together is what do we need to be investing in now to position ourselves well for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? This is a good question for us to ask as a church, as well as for us personally as disciples. How are we as disciples investing our lives and resources now that will help bring about greater meaning and purpose and hope and healing for God's good future? How do we prioritize our time and energy and resources that are entrusted to us, the gifts and graces that God entrusts to us? This is a question that this church has been asking for a very long time. Jim Johnson and I do know Jim had to leave earlier. It was good to visit with him for a minute. Jim and I met this past week to chat about the history and archives of First Cary, and we began to really remember the good work that has gone before us. All of those who have come before us in a number of different ways, we give thanks for their faithfulness that brings us to the point we are today. We also, as part of that conversation, gave thanks for how God is continually at work to correct and sanctify us when we do go astray and miss the mark. There are adjustments that we all need to make. Certainly, I'm sure this was on our hearts and minds in parts because Ash Wednesday is next Wednesday, and we begin our journey to Lent, which is a time of more intentional examination and allowing ourselves to be transformed. So as we considered these things, we kept in mind a fruitful future and leaving a good legacy for those who follow us. Jesus speaks to his disciples about these very things just before his passion. He reminds us to stay connected to him, to abide in him, to stay connected so that we can bear fruit that lasts, so that we leave a lasting legacy. And he concludes this little part by saying, do these things so that your joy may be complete. Hear these words, very familiar words, selected verses from John 15. This is Jesus speaking. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. So my prayer for us today is that we abide, that we stay connected, personally as disciples, as well as together in the church, allowing ourselves to be transformed as God leads. Doing this not only brings beautiful things now, but also leads to a very good future and leaves a wonderful legacy for those who come after us. And speaking of our joy being complete, it is truly a joy to be with each of you today. This fellowship is a sweet friendship and fellowship that is pleasing to God. So, amen. And thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Martha, for that. It's wonderful. So at this time, I'm going to, before I call up our prestigious leaders of our scouting program, I want to just say, I want to thank Gant Edmondson. He's our charter organization representative for scouting and through First Carry. I call him the big guy. I'm just kidding. And then we're also pleased to have Tommy Grubbs, who's our scout master. And then Jimmy Dorff, who's a member of our church here. He's our PAC leader, committee chair for the PAC 200 program. I want to say that I want to thank this scouting ministry. We're proud to say that Troop 200 has been part of 75 years at the church here at First Carry. So we all got patches. I didn't get a patch, but they all got patches made that have 75 years, and I was proud to put that on Preston's shirt. So personal thing is I'm proud of the scouting program. Preston, I was thankful to get to know Jimmy and Jen Dorff here at the church. Their boys had been in the Cub Scout program, and I got Mike Williams, a good friend of mine here, sitting here at the table. Obviously, he's a member of the church, and we had put our children through the Y Guides program through YMCA. And when Preston hit third grade, I was like, I wanted to continue that because the Y Guides program, they have a program for fourth and fifth graders, but it's called Trailblazers back in the day. I don't know what it's called now, but it wasn't obviously as intense. And I said, hey, this might be a good opportunity for Preston. I want to see if he's interested. So I want to thank Jimmy and Jen just being, in Sunday school class and presenting that idea to have Preston join. And he came in as a Cub Scout in third grade and has enjoyed it since. And he's been Boy Scout and is kind of working his way up. And I think he enjoys coming to the meetings on Tuesday. Definitely enjoys the camping and just the camaraderie and the friendship that he's made through the troops, through the scouting program. So it's meaningful to me. I was not a scout, but I'm learning from him. And it's good to see some things that he does. And so I want to thank the ministry that provides. So, but anyway, so at this time, I want to, call up Gant. Oh, no, call up Tommy. All right. No, call Jimmy. Sorry. So Jimmy, please, thank you. Join the stage.
Thanks, Rob. And I think Tommy has notes, but I'll just be extemporaneous. So I'm Jimmy Dorff. My family has been, my wife and I have been members of First Gen Methodist here since the late 90s. I became the PAC committee chair in 2016. And so both my sons have been through the program, and they're currently scouts in Troop 200 here. For me, it's been a very rewarding experience. I've really enjoyed the interaction with the young men who are in our program. I'll give you a little overview just in case you don't remember all the different words. So I work with the youngest scouts in our program. So that's what the blue's for. You can see all of our colors mean different things. So PAC 200 serves elementary school aged young boys. So we have from first grade to fifth grade boys in our program. Right now, today, we have 24. It's been bigger in the past. It's been smaller in the past. COVID was a real challenge, but we're still doing well, and we very much appreciate the support that we get from First Carry. Obviously, the facilities, the use of that, everyone's patience and tolerance with particularly my Cub Scouts because, they're never quiet. That's very important to know. It's never quiet here. If you're ever here on a Tuesday, you'll know it's never quiet, Tuesday evening. In fact, speaking of patience, a couple things come to mind. Last Tuesday evening, there was a group in what used to be 124, I think it's now called 101 meeting. And just outside the Templeton courtyard, we had about 9 third grade boys doing a Cub Scout program called Baloo the Builder. And while Scouts does many things, one of the really good things is teaching just basic sort of life skills. Most of these boys had never swung a hammer before, and it was extremely obvious they had never swung a hammer before. But they were endeavoring to drive a nail in a piece of wood. And again, it was very not quiet. So fortunately, I was able to go apologize to the group meeting nearby, and they said it wasn't that bad. So we have a lot of fun things like that. In terms of what we do classic things like we had earlier last month in this very room. We had our Pinewood Derby, which you may remember where the boys with some amount of parental involvement build little cars out of wood and race them down a racetrack. That's always a very popular one. We have a similar program with what we call the Rain Gutter Regatta. They make a little boat, and then they are Cub Scout breath-powered boats that race each other in rain gutters, and we've done that actually out in the field by the columbarium is where we did it the last time. It's not really an indoor sort of activity. Gant will probably touch on the core missions of Scouting. I will say a few things have been touching. We have a lot of great parents. It's really great to know the parents who are coming and being part of the program here. Most of our Scouts are not members of First Carry. Many of them are not members of any religious organization. Maybe my most touching one I've had. I'm gonna get all weird here. A few years ago, we didn't actually have a mom, and she said she's bringing her son to Cub Scouts because she wanted him to see men who are sober, because his dad never is. So anyway, I'll close with that.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for inviting us here this morning. Unfortunately, it has been pre-COVID since we have been able to come and do this for the United Methodist Men's Breakfast, and we're very appreciative to be invited back. My name's Tommy Grubbs. I'm the Scoutmaster of Troop 200, and at some point in 1974, I was 7 years old, and I did like all the other young men, boys in my neighborhood, I joined Cub Scouts, and all the boys from Medfield came to Troop Pack 200, the Cub Scout program, and then on into the Boy Scout program. So I'm one of those ones who've never been a member of this church. I grew up Episcopalian. My parents had decided to do that. But I have spent way more time in this church since 1974 than I have. So that is, like Jimmy said, that is one of the things that Scouting offers to the youth of the community, that brings Scouts and youth in who may not have had any association with any kind of church or anything in their lives. I know of several Eagle Scouts that is the case of. In 1994, October the 1st, I said a three-letter word that has led me to a very rewarding and challenging unpaid career. I said yes to becoming the Scoutmaster of Troop 200. At the time, I was really concerned what parent in their right mind would let their kid go out with a 27-year-old Scoutmaster. But I have been in this troop. I've never been out of Scouting since 1974, and thanks to this church, I was able to do that. In recent years, of course, everybody remembers COVID. We do too. It made us shut down a lot like what everybody else had to do. We were unable to have meetings. We were unable to do camping activities. And Scouting is a very much hands-on, face-to-face, in-the-woods program. So we were greatly hampered. We even had to counsel going to summer camp in 2020 because the troop and the troop committee felt that it was just too risky to send 60 or 70 kids up into an environment with several hundred other kids. And then in the fall of 2020, we decided to get back to business as best we could. So people started talking to me, and I will tell you up front that I'm not even computer literate. But they started talking to me about this program called Zoom. Zoom, I remembered, was a TV show on PBS that I watched as a young child. And I was trying to figure out how that would help us run troop meetings. But we put a Zoom program together, and we're able to keep the Scouts engaged, not ideally, but at least engaged. And more importantly, we kept that time slot on Tuesday nights as Scouting and didn't become something else for the families. We started doing some in-person patrol meetings. The patrols are the smaller groups inside of the troop, and that worked well. We started doing day trips. A day trip camping program early on. We did some one-nighters where the kids slept in their own tent unless they were brothers from the same household. And then in 2021, we were able to get back to normal. and go to summer camp and kind of start meeting back, especially when the church opened up. So we are still kind of in the COVID lag, I guess you would say, for a lot of ways, but we're spooling back up and getting back to where we need to be. Right now, the troop has between 45 and 50 members. It's kind of a moving mark right now because we are recruiting for our new first-year program that kicks off this coming week, and we have been somewhat successful with that. So we have new scouts joining week to week right now. We were able to get advancement back up during COVID. Eagle Scouts were not really able to work on their Eagle projects. That is a service project to the community that requires scouts and friends and family to come help complete a service project to the community. And they weren't, but we do have some scouts now who are back working on Eagle projects, have completed their Eagles, so we've got that back up and running. We're back, of course, to regular camping activities, and a week from today, Troop 200 will be storming the USS North Carolina. We were years ago up at Norfolk, and on the wall of the USS Teddy Roosevelt aircraft carrier on the back of the bridge, there was a DEVCON condition sign up there. And my senior patrol leader walked up to me and said, don't you think that if they knew, since they knew Troop 200 was coming, they'd have been DEVCON 3 instead of DEVCON 5? So, at any rate, we're going to do that. And next month, we're going to Sylvan Bird Park. The boys went there years ago with us, and they really enjoyed it and wanted to go back. We are doing summer camp this summer again as normal up at Camp Raven Knob, west of Mount Airy. And this summer, we have a group going to Philmont. This past summer, 2023, we had a group go up to the National Scout Jamboree. Jimmy was one of the leaders on that as well. And we are hoping this year, for the first time since pre-COVID, to be able to have some scouts go to NYLT, National Youth Leadership Training Conference. It is a national program that is put on by the councils, and it is a very, very good training program for the scouts in our troop, especially the young leaders in our troop. A couple years ago, the Methodist Church made a decision nationally, due to liability reasons, understandably, to not have ownership in scouting units any longer, which kind of threw the pack, the troop, and the venture crew into a we had to scramble to find a solution. After doing a lot of looking and figuring out, I'm happy to announce that we have successfully formed a 501c3 that holds the charters for the pack, the troop, and the crew. And through a usage agreement with the church, we are still using this room for our troop meetings. And my personal goal when this started, of not having a single scout in any of our units even feel a bump in the road when we did this, or were doing this, we have been able to continue program without interruption, thanks to the user agreement with this church, and we very, very much appreciate that. Our boys are still meeting in the same room as they did before all of this took effect, and I would like to take a moment to thank the adults in the units who worked very, very hard to figure this out and keep scouting alive in this church so that we could have a charter. Without a charter, we're not a unit. The future of our troop looks, I think, very well. We are doing well. Like I said, we have a Philmont crew, 2 crews going in conjunction with the venture crew, going to Philmont for about a week and a half's worth of backpacking out in New Mexico at a big scout reservation out there. We have quite a few who are working on their Eagles and other advancement to get to that point. And I'd like to thank this group. We found out back in the summer, early fall, that the council was no longer going to cover the charge for the Eagle presentation packets. It's the Eagle medal, the Eagle patch, the mom and dad pins and all that Eagles are presented at their Eagle ceremony. I talked to Rob about it, and through his work and y'all's generosity, the Methodist men are going to help us cover the cost of the Eagle packets that are presented. Otherwise, the families would be having to pay that, and we were not real comfortable with that in that thing. So thank y'all for that. Thank y'all for that. Anyway, like I said, we have new scouts joining all the time. We still feel a little bit of the COVID lag. Our numbers are not what they were prior to COVID, but we're doing the best we can. And I am really, really happy. I had talked to Rob and several others, and one of my goals is once we got back up was to start doing a pancake supper again for the church. I've always looked at it as a service to the church and a way for the troop to say thank you and a way for you folks to see that the kids that run around here on Tuesday night all aren't little heathens when they're dressed up and serving you pancakes. So this coming Tuesday night, we have got what they're calling Pancake Palooza, and in conjunction with the Methodist Child Care, the troop is going to help out with that, cook pancakes and sausage, and the MCC is going to handle the entertainment. And Rob told me when we were talking about this that the MCC and the troop would split any profits, and the troop has decided that we are not going to take any profit from this. Pancake sausage stuff we have to buy, we would like to have covered, but any profits the troop would take, we are going to give back to the MCC for their scholarship fund to get children into the program. So we're real happy about getting that back up and coming out and helping the church. Any rate, like I said, I'd like to thank the church for everything you do. This church has given me a home since 1974 when I joined scouting program here, and it does a whole lot for the youth of our community. We do not allow cell phones and things when we go camping, so hopefully we can do a little bit of getting them out of the screen time and getting them back into the woods where they can do what boys like to do. Some of it I won't mention here, but poke that fire, flip matches, and things like that. Just what boys do in the woods, and I think what boys need to be able to get out and do in the woods. It's been a great trip for me personally. As being the scoutmaster, it's been challenging in both ways. It's also been very, very rewarding. Our troop, since its inception in 1948, correct, Gant? Close enough. All right. We have produced almost 300 Eagle Scouts, and I think that is really, really impressive. And we have continued to push the program. I think it's a great program. I know that there's 3 people in my life when I was a teenager and doing stupid things that I would not have wanted to tell I had done something wrong. My father, my grandfather, 4 people, excuse me, my uncle, and my scoutmaster. And so I do credit this program with keeping me out of trouble, making me think. I hope we're doing the same thing. I hope we're developing good citizens and good members of our community. And with this church's help and this group's help, it is possible, and I very much appreciate everybody's help in this. So thank y'all for having us out here.
I'm Gant Edmiston. Officially the chartered organization representative. That means that I sit between our chartered organization and the scouting program. And I will tell you, I also have the unenviable position of following Tommy. So I'll do my best. But let's talk about Tommy just a minute. He mentioned how long he's been here. But if you did the math, that's 50 years. Okay, he's never not been a scout for 50 years. He also mentioned that we're just 7 scouts shy of 300 Eagle Scouts from this unit. 248 of those are Tommy's Eagles. Yes. And there's no troop in Occoneechee Council, which is 12 counties that surround Raleigh, that come even halfway there under one scoutmaster. The skills and training and how to be a man have been under his watch for 50 years. It's just amazing. and how fortunate we are to have this scouting ministry here. So let's talk a moment about scouting ministry. If you look behind me on the screen, you'll see the summary of the scouting mission statement. Prepared, period, for life, period. But the mission statement of the Boy Scouts of America is just a little bit longer, and I'll do my best to share that with you. The mission statement of the Boy Scouts of America, which was formed in the United States February the 8th, 1910, 114 years ago this past Thursday, goes like this: to prepare young people to make moral and ethical choices over the course of their lifetime by instilling in them the values of the Scout oath and law. That mission statement has never changed. Scouting has changed tremendously, but the mission statement has not. And as awesome as it is that I got the fortune of having leaders that we have in our unit when I was a youth, how fortunate it was. I had no idea what being an Eagle Scout was. But I was so fortunate that I was put in the program by my parents. My brother became an Eagle Scout. He was an Eagle Scout because he passed. I am an Eagle Scout and will be an Eagle Scout until the day I join Jesus. Tommy is an Eagle Scout. But preparing young people, the Boy Scouts have never really been about making Eagle Scout. It's a laudable accomplishment, and it says a lot for a young man who's under the age of 18 to do that. You can't earn Eagle after you turn 18. So you got to do a lot of things. And back then, there wasn't much to do in my little hometown of Kannapolis except scouting. We didn't have soccer. We didn't have, well, we had band, but that was on another night. There was a lot of things pulling at people, these kids today, especially these screens, okay? But I love the fact that we're preparing young people. And I love the fact that I think about what ministry is. I love representing the scouting ministry because we do minister to these young people. And we bring most of them in this building where perhaps their parents don't take them to another organization that has faith, that has training. And I love that. And many of my friends who are in scouting or otherwise have gone to the ministry or have found a faith that they can stand behind because of scouting. And that is important to me, and I think it's important to everybody. There's a fundraising program in our scouting program called FOS, stands for Friends of Scouting. But we like to think of it as Fat Old Scoutmasters. And I want to thank Rob and his crew for the wonderful food. It was awesome to not have to cook it, just sit down and enjoy it. So that was great. I also want to thank Rob and his crew. One of the things they started, you guys have started a while back, was every new scout that joins our program gets a little devotional book called Strength in Service. You guys fund that. We give them to the new scouts. And it's just an awesome book. I had one, I got one about 15, 17 years ago. I saw it first at a scouting program. And when Rob stepped up to me and said, you know, there's these little books. And I said, yeah, Rob, I know, they're cool. And he says, we'd like to give one to every one of your scouts. And we do that. And I hope it's making a big difference. I've been so fortunate to be part of scouting, but also part of this scouting at First Carry. I've been your chartered organization representative since we lost our dear brother in Christ, Steve Merritt, who sadly passed away. And Carl Frazier came to me and said, would you like to take over his role? I said, no. And then later I said yes. And it was some big boots to fill, replacing Steve, but I've done my best doing that. My role was mostly administrative. Tommy is much more attuned to working with the young men, Jimmy in the same. I'm proud that my son is an Eagle Scout as well from this unit. And I got to thank Martha and Christine and now Charlotte. They have been so gracious to work with us and take my frequent phone calls or emails or so forth. We need this, we need that, and it's always just a pleasure to work with them. One of the qualifications of being a Scoutmaster apparently is not being afraid to lose your hair. We kind of consider ourselves Scout leaders, but often on Tuesday night it's more like cat herding, if you've seen all the red shirts around the campus here. But just being able to come here and have young men and be examples for them is so fulfilling, and I'll stop rambling. Thank you so much.
I know we normally open it up with any questions. Does anybody have anything they want to ask either one of the leaders while we're here, or anything or whatever? I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer. How many Eagle Scouts have we had this last year? Or in the process? Yeah.
We've had as many as 21 in 1 year. This past year we had 2. A lot of that has to do with it comes and goes based on attrition and so forth. But COVID really slowed that cycle down. If you go on the troop200.org website, there's a history section, and it lists all of those 293 Eagles. You may see some people you know. Anybody here that was in scouting? You were okay. I say scouting and my phone starts answering. I'm a little involved.
All right, well, thank you for that. So what we do is, to close up, I want to thank you guys for coming. Thank you for sharing the presentation. I think I heard that there's a skills day out in Umstead going on right now presently for the first years, I understand. So that's special. That's for any of the boys that want to get into a first year. They go out to Umstead and they learn some skills and building fires and all that good stuff. So glad to have my nephew came and joined this last Tuesday night, Henry, and so I'm proud of that. Jeff and Katie Darden, they're members of our church, and he's in 5th grade and wanted to get involved with scouting. So, but on the table we have, like we do for every one of our programs, we do a love offering. We can obviously, if you want to donate online, there's the QR code. If you'd like to leave a check, you can leave a check. If you want to leave some cash in the bowls, we'll collect that. We're going to give that to Troop 200. Gant's going to, he can divvy that up within the pack and the troop. But, if you'd like to make out a check, you can make it out to Troop 200. Gordon can collect that, or just leave a love offering like we always do. We appreciate the support. Methodist men will give, we'll take that and we'll give a little love offering. So we thank you guys. Again, they mentioned the pancake breakfast. I think I saw yesterday that so far we have 140 reservations. So that's fantastic, because I think Friday night at the youth dinner there was 120 people in here. So 140 is going to be, woo! There might be a lot of flipping pancakes up here on the stage. So I don't know what they're doing for activities, but that's going to be, that's just exciting. And obviously, like they shared, that's being shared with the MCC Methodist Children's Center, which I happened to go to when I was a child. So that's a good program. That's going to help with the scholarships. But that's, I think that's it. I don't know, John, am I missing a slide? Love offering. Oh, if you do online, that's on our website. You can go here and you can click if you want to do it by credit card or donation. And then if I could call up Martha, if you can close us out in prayer. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, wonderful rest of Saturday. I'm not going to say anything about football, but I guess there's a big game tomorrow. But everybody enjoy your weekend.
Either way. Let us pray. Holy and loving God, bless you for who you are and that you call us to be in relationship with you. Bless you for how your Holy Spirit nurtures us and sustains us. We give thanks for your Son, Jesus Christ, in the many ways that you weave our lives together and that you are always at work for good, redeeming our lives. We pray to go forth in love and service in your name. Amen.
And as always, if anybody's wanted to just help us clean the tables or just kind of, we'll put the chairs away and all that stuff, but we appreciate it. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.